I may have slowed down in my reading, but I have not slowed down in my book buying. Hi friends, I'm Bree and I like to buy books. It's actually getting to be rather excessive and I need to slow down. It's getting to be a problem. I think I need to just organize every bookshelf in my house and unhaul a lot of them. So hold me accountable to that, will you? Not to completely expose myself as the absolute feral book hoarder that I am, but I have bookshelves in every single room of my house. What you see behind me are my childhood bookshelves, mostly filled with books that I've read. In my bedroom, I have an entire one of these that is just double stacked, full of books on my TBR. Even though I now live in the library of my youngest self's wildest dreams, the rate at which I am obtaining books is unmanageable. Let me show you. This is actually embarrassing. Oh yeah, there's also these. Oh, I missed one. Oh God. Send help. I also obtained these 7 books over the last month and a half or so because I got a personalized TBR from Haley and I want to do a reading video where I just read these and react to them. Some of these I bought new, some of these I thrifted. We're not going to talk about these today. They're going to all have their own video. But the rest? Whew. Let's go through the rest in no particular order and I can tell you why I got them and how excited I am to read them, and maybe you can help guide me as to which books I need to pick up sooner rather than later. There are a few, and I mean a very small few, of books in this stack that have been gifted to me, so I think I'm gonna isolate those and go through those first. That way there's some form of organization. One of the ones that I'm most excited to get to is the new Stephen Graham Jones book that came out this week. This one sounds so good. This one takes place in a town in West Texas that Stephen Graham Jones actually grew up in. So that's really exciting. This next one is one that I haven't seen very much on the internet, which is shocking to me because the premise sounds so good. It's God Bless You, Otis Spunkmeyer, and when the publisher reached out to me, I read the description because I hadn't heard of it and it sounded really heartbreaking and interesting and maybe kind of funny. So I absolutely signed up for it. And still, a month after its release, I really haven't seen it on the internet. So if you've read this one, let me know what you thought because I really think I want to get to this one this summer. In contrast, this next one I have seen on TikTok quite a bit, and it's the trade back release of The North Wind. So I'm really excited that the publisher sent me this one because I've seen quite a bit of hype around this. It claims to be Beauty and the Beast meets Hades and Persephone, and I'm kind of a sucker for both of those things. I did just look it up on Goodreads and it has pretty like middling ratings, which dampens my excitement to pick it up a little bit. So if you have read this and if you had strong feelings about it, definitely let me know. I could probably be swayed either way. The 4th book in my gifted stack is a thriller. It's called The Unwedding. I don't read a ton of thrillers. Every summer I get the urge to read at least one fun, page-turning, incredibly engrossing, compulsively readable thriller. This one is definitely a contender to maybe be that thriller. Okay, maybe not. It also has pretty mid reviews. Aw. Bummer. If you have any suggestions for a good summer thriller, let me know. Okay, I am pumped for this next one. This is called It Came from the Closet. This is 25 contemporary queer and trans writers reflecting on the horror films that shaped them, shook them, from Hitchcock to Halloween to Hereditary. I think I saw that Carmen Maria Machado has an essay in here about Jennifer's body. Sold. That's all I need to know. I will be getting to this one very soon. There's a creator on TikTok, Lauren, who just put up a 5 hot girl books to read this summer, and I bought 3 of them because I want to be a hot girl this summer. The first one is Black Swans by Eve Babitz because truly, any hot girl reading list is gonna have Eve on it. I've read one of her collections before and it was just drenched in LA summer vibes with affairs and parties and the beach, and if this is anything like that, then I definitely want to read this summer. It's also true that hot girls do read Joan Didion and I want to be hotter, so I have to read more Joan. That's just the rules. I didn't make them up. This is absolutely one of Joan Didion's most known works and it is honestly embarrassing that I haven't read it. All I know is that this also takes place in LA and it is about a woman in crisis. And what's more summer than that? I also picked up Brutes because I have been seeing this book everywhere and I absolutely need to read it this summer. It sounds weird and wacky and like a celebration of girlhood, but also strange and bizarre in the best way. Just from everything I've heard about it, I am really excited to get to this one. I also picked up Old Enough by Haley Jakobson because when I was at my last book club, I saw my friend Kelsey had bought this and I loved this blurb on the cover. I guess blurbs do work because this one says, "Old Enough is full of growth, heartbreak, and winsome bisexual chaos." And that sounds really good. I have been seeing housemates everywhere and I finally caved purely because of Nick's video. Nick reviewed it and it sold me. I went from being on the fence to I have to have that ASAP right now. Give it to me. So this one is absolutely going to be one that I get to. I also picked up The Celebrants by the same author as The Guncle, which I read and loved last year. I just really appreciated how that one was really a book about grief, but it was so funny and the relationships were written so well and it felt so summer. It was the perfect setting for a summer read in Palm Springs in a flamingo-shaped pool float. My understanding is that this one is a friendship reunion that takes place in Big Sur, and it is a bunch of college friends who haven't seen each other in decades and they're all well into their adult years and they are throwing each other living funerals to honor each other's lives, and it sounds like it is also going to be heartfelt, touching, and funny. I also scored a copy of Lullabies for Little Criminals by Heather O'Neill. I was absolutely obsessed with When We Lost Our Heads, and that was my first Heather O'Neill, so I definitely need to read more. And what better place to start than with her first one? I don't know anything about this novel except that if it is half as good as When We Lost Our Heads, then I'm gonna love it. I absolutely adore feminist retellings of Greek myths, and one of my favorite authors in this space is Jennifer Saint, and she has a new one. This is Hera, and it's out in the UK now. I believe the US edition will be here in a couple of months, but let's be real, the UK edition is prettier, and it's the one I wanted. I feel like Hera gets a really bad rap. Like, she's always depicted as the evil stepmother or the jealous wife, when in reality, she's just a powerful woman, and people can't handle that. If anyone can depict her story with the appropriate amount of nuance, it's Jennifer Saint. I have a soft spot for red and pink covers, and this one is no exception. This is I Hope This Finds You Well, and this has been described to me as a combination of Office Space and Fleabag. Need I say more? So I'm in a book club that selected The Magical Age of Overthinking as their next book, and I'm actually not that excited about this one, mostly because Aubrey gave it a pretty scathing review. I did read Cultish by this author, and while I enjoyed it, it did leave me wanting a little more, so I was already a little hesitant about this one, but then I saw Aubrey's review, and now I'm like, at least it's short, and the cover's cute, so there's that. So I just read We Have Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson, my first of hers, and definitely not my last. The next one of hers I will be picking up is The Lottery and Other Stories. Shirley Jackson just has the best vibes. We Have Always Lived in the Castle also was like the perfect summer-ween book. Shirley Jackson is a legend for a reason, and I will be reading everything of hers that I can get my hands on. This is gonna seem really random, but one of my favorite bookstores in the world is doing a book club about transportation. It's a book club focused on urban planning where they're going to read the book and discuss it while walking through town. And that's so cool. Anyway, I scored a very cheap copy of the next book that they're going to be discussing. It smells delightfully musty and it looks very dense, but it's called The Death and Life of Great American Cities. This came out in 1961. I have never read anything like this, and I have no idea what I'm getting myself into. Now let's talk about fantasy and sci-fi. A fantasy book I'm pretty excited about is The Night Ends with Fire. This is a fantasy adventure novel inspired by the legend of Mulan, and it has rave reviews, and it comes in this gorgeous first edition printing, so I had to buy it. This is a tale of magic, adventure, of war, love, corruption, betrayal, and feminism. I also hear rumors that there are dragons in this one, which is exciting. Even though I haven't started this, I did read the author's note, and the author talks a lot about the different versions of the legend of Mulan. And of course, I'm really familiar with the Western Disney retelling, but she talks about all of the disparate versions that she ties together in order to find a through line and create this. And and that has really piqued my interest, to say the least. These next two are from my May and June Illumicrate boxes. They came around the exact same time, so I have no idea which is which, but they both look really good. This one is Goddess of the River. This one is a retelling of an ancient Hindu epic that I'm not familiar with at all. My understanding is that this author is already very beloved, so this is a very anticipated release, and I have heard absolutely nothing but glowing praise for it, so it's one that I want to get to. And of course, this edition is absolutely stunning, so there's that too. So this next Illumicrate one is Of Jade and Dragons, and I have never heard of this one before it showed up on my doorstep. So I just looked it up on Goodreads, and it sounds like it's also a Mulan retelling with a twist. One reviewer says, read this if you love Tamora Pierce's books. A feisty girl engineer, a mysterious prince, a murder mystery, airships, pagodas, mechanical beasts. You had me at feisty girl engineer. Apparently this one is a cool sci-fantasy world that has East Asian steampunk vibes. And the main character is a young engineer who disguises herself as a boy to compete for a spot in an engineer guild, while also trying to solve her father's murder. And according to Goodreads, there is a romance subplot. This is the final stretch because we're almost caught up on all my book purchases up until July 16th. All we have left is this little romance stack, so let's just blow right through that. Maybe it's just a sign of getting older, because a few years ago, if you would have tried to gift me mass market paperbacks, I would have been grossed out. However, there is something really charming about a little stiff mass market paperback that you can just sort of ruin. Maybe it's just that they're $7 and they always have ridiculous cheesy covers. Case in point is this next one that I'm going to be reading for my romance book club. This is a something of something and something. Truly, this is one of those titles that will not stay in my brain. Apparently this is a Viking fantasy and there's dragons, and look at this amazing cover. I just love this so much. I don't know what this is about, and I don't really care because it looks like it's going to be a lot of fun to read it and then discuss it with a room of 30 women. Since reading Don't Want You Like a Best Friend, I have been thinking about nothing but sapphic Regency romances, and the internet says that The Lady's Guide to Celestial Mechanics is another excellent sapphic Regency romance, and that was all I needed to know to pick this up. That, and again, the incredibly fun cheesy cover. I would never tell my younger self that I'm in my mass market paperback era. I picked up Written in the Stars because I saw it on a list that said, if you like Chapel Roan, you should read these books. So that's it. And then I saw that it is a contemporary sapphic nod to Bridget Jones' Diary and Pride and Prejudice, and like, come on, absolutely. We'll be getting to this ASAP. Sometimes you're just at the bookstore and you pick up books that you've never heard of because they look cute. And that was the case for me, and Fish Out of Water. This just looked really cute. It's like City Girl, Mountain Man. It says long hikes through gorgeous wilderness, check. Bears, check. A single shared sleeping bag, check. Enough sparks to set the Rockies ablaze, check, check, check. And look at the little fish on the cover. Last but not least, there is a creator on TikTok who I used to play basketball with back in my basketball girly days when my knees were still fully operational. And she's a writer now, and she just released a sports romance. It's basketball. I don't think I've ever read a basketball romance. And if somebody's gonna do it right, it's gonna be somebody who I know was really good at basketball in her day. So, and this seems like a really great time to read it, especially since women's basketball is like finally getting its due. We made it through the stack. That is it. Everything up until July 16th that I have bought, not including any pre-orders that I may or may not have out there in the ether. So send help. I'd love it if you let me know in the comments which one of these I should get to first. Also, let me know if you want to see me organize my TBR and reprioritize things and unhaul some books, because this is getting out of hand and I need to do something. So if that content sounds interesting to you, let me know. I'll make it. As always, thank you so much for being here and supporting this channel. It means the world to me. I'm having so much fun finding my niche and figuring out my lane, and I really appreciate you being here while I figure it out. See you next week.